Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fun filled and exciting episode of Fight Talk Live with your host today, Base the Kid, and also Danny Glover, who is in the building. However, I believe he was a bit indisposed, couldn't leave you lot hanging any longer. Um, well, we are here. October Red is unavailable last minute, I believe, and Maestro is celebrating the birthday of his significant other. So we wish him and her all the happiness today. Danny, first things first, before I even ask you how you are, I'm going to make it very, very clear because there's only two of us, and there was going to be four, so this was going to be even more amped up. We'll have parliamentary procedure today. However, the procedure is not going to be about who cuts anyone off or who jumps in on anybody. That's fine. All of that can run. But the procedure will be precisional, surgical, unadulterated, and dare I say, brutal. No opinions, no thoughts, no comments off the table, nothing sugar coated. We're just going to talk how we talk. Are you cool with that?
Absolutely.
All right. So without further ado, how are you?
Yeah. Last minute, as you just saw, someone just had a first aid incident, so had to attend to that. So sorry about that, base and the viewers for the late start. Uh, yeah, a couple other issues in the life, but we're here. We're here, and glad to see you back from annual leave. I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's coming like I can't really take annual leave because when I do think them, don't work right, dude, don't it? Yeah, but it's fine. Look, you know what's funny enough, right? And you usually we don't really be on this sort of time of night. I heard just a moment ago, thanks to I believe it's Philip in the chat. He's basically said Napa is on Stamina for Sale at the moment, discussing the Billy Joe Saunders incident, which you were very Johnny on the spot with and had a lot of opinions on. I actually messaged Napa about half an hour ago asking him where he was at to see if he wanted to jump on, but clearly he's a bit indisposed. So before we even get into all the other business and the and the stuff from last night, since that's what's on the mind, talk about that from your perspective, what you saw, how you're feeling about it.
So we're talking about last night's action. Yeah. Yeah, Chris Eubank Jr. He done the
No,
business.
no, we're talking about the Napa and Billy Joe Saunders
Oh, the
thing. And
Napa Billy
also,
Joe.
just before we and breaking news, it has now just been made official that Usyk Dubois is happening for Undisputed on the 19th of July. The poster has just come out. So,
Yeah, yeah. I heard that they was moving the date due to it was meant to be on the 12th, but because Taylor Serrano is on the same weekend and there's another show, so they
the
didn't want.
Ring magazine show, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so they didn't want to clog it up, which would have been true. So yeah, they had to move. So yeah, smart decision. But yeah, with the Napa Billy Joe Saunders situation, well, they let the cat out of the bag early that they was going to send Billy Joe to the changing room. I don't believe he is a licensed British Boxing Board of Control um, holder. As far as we're talking about trainers or chief seconds or stuff like that, so I don't think he'd even been allowed to observe the raps anyway. But it's obviously gamesmanship. Napa did his job as well as the other security team. Just to also let people know, Napa is not security. Yes, he's got muscles and he's a tall, big dude, but he just goes gym. He's a former musician who is now a manager, a boxing manager, who's the manager of Chris Eubank Jr. and Brandon Glanton. So people need to stop judging a book by its cover. I think that there is some a lot of undertone and assumptions thinking, oh, he's a big black guy, so you think he's security. No, he's not. Also, Billy Joe Saunders exposed himself. I always thought Billy Joe had some little inkling because he used to always talk about Chris Eubank Jr. Oh, your big nose, your big nose. Look at your nose, look at your nostrils, this and that. But last night, he then took it a step further, saying to Napa, look at your flat nose, your big nose, your rubber lips. And as anyone knows, if you grew up in the 1990s or even the late 80s, where I was in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. But yeah, grew up in the 90s. There was the famous cuss words people used to say. Your rubber lip, your drop lip, and it'd be drop lip monkey, rubber lip monkey. So obviously he didn't use the monkey term, but we know that's the one what was coming next. But he just refrained from using that. So that was definitely um, racial undertones, and I'm not for that because Napa doesn't even have big lips like that. Even though I'm not watching man's lips like that, but I'm just saying he doesn't have lips like that. So yeah, it's just a straight assumption. I saw F1 John there. Napa told him you ain't coming, and he didn't come in there. I don't know if he's had a pie and a pint and a packet earlier in the night. It was a bit Conor McGregorish the way he was behaving, and yeah, he got sent on his way. But yeah, well done to Napa and Ivan and F1 John. You know what I mean, for keeping him out, and yeah, Billy Joe and Nigel Benn, for even associating with a guy like that, it's just a bit, it's a bit disappointing. You can't really be associated with dudes like that, in my opinion.
Okay, no, I mean, look, no, I don't think much more needs to be said on that. The thing is, I watched the audio, but I didn't really hear much of it because I was busy, obviously, on the stream. I haven't gone to watch it back, but hearing you obviously make the, sort of the very clear distinctions of what's been said and all of that. Yep, not something I condone, not something I support, and I've never particularly been a fan of Billy Joe Saunders, whether in the ring or outside the ring. So yeah, I guess this was his 15 minutes of fame. I believe he is retired now, so bad retirement to him, and we move forward. With that being said, let's talk about the main event because that's what we're all here for. That's what we are. That's what we all came for. That's what we paid the money for. As much as whether we liked or disliked the undercard, that was all just hors d'oeuvres and appetizers for the main course and the dessert. So, with that being said, what was your thoughts on, I guess, the event? How things unfolded in the ring, the little build up to it. Like, how did you feel about it, and ultimately, were you happy with what you got in the end?
With the event, the whole build up was, I thought it was fantastic. A lot of drama going on. I feel that Eubank Jr. was good at playing a bit deceptive because people are like, oh, he's using saunas, he's doing this, he's going mad, like to lose the weight. One, did you see him wrap himself in the stuff and how long he wrapped himself? Do you know if he just wrapped himself up just for show and then poured some water on himself and then got out of that blanketed duvet type style stuff? He said, "Oh yeah, time for the sauna now." He walked a little bit, and then, but you didn't see him actually go into a sauna. So I don't believe he did. He made the next day weigh in fine. Conor Benn, they was probably banking on, well, thinking that Senior was not going to be there. Junior, when Senior came through on the event night, that was, that's just had the crowd erupting. But it's just like what Biggie Small says. Number two, never let them know your next move. Don't you know bad boys move in silence and violence? Take it from your highness. So, that's what they were doing. They ain't letting you know what's coming. As Senior said, there's people who are actors and then there's people who are Oscar winners. He done his theatrics and stuff like that. But that was a game changer because you saw uh, Conor Benn, Nigel, the team. They was looking at the screen. Yeah, they tried to keep poker, but that offset them. They didn't see that one coming. People did make things. Oh, that would be great if he'd come. Oh, I think he's going to come last minute. People just saying that because you're just covering your bases. But at the end, no. But at that time, nobody thought Senior was coming. Hence, when he did, the place went ballistic, and that was definitely a babyface moment for Chris Jr. And I think that gave him the spirit and vigor to go in there and fight with the spirit of his father. Definitely worth 20 quid. You can't say that you was hard done by. Definitely worth the money. That's only two a rum and coke a double these days. And yeah, I think it was
Funny
fantastic.
how you seem to equate it to food and drink, innit? You could have picked up anything else, but you decide for go for draw for the food and the drink.
I'm not going to say gambling, am I? Because I only put a couple of £2 on here and there.
Okay. Well, look, no, look, you're totally right, and I think, to be honest, anyone who made predictions on this fight didn't calculate anything to do with, obviously, Senior being there, and especially with that, everyone kind of thought, oh, he has to be there, he has to be there, kind of thing. But ultimately, by him being there right in the end, it was something that now, okay, all bets are off. Anything that we believed about how difficult this weight cut was now became irrelevant. Anything we believed about has the punch resistance dwindled down became irrelevant, because we've all seen, yes, while it's not a, it's not a, it's like a superpower. Some people do manage to draw when you've got that situation and something spurs you on. There is that inherent, just that spiritual, that that energetic. There's just a certain energy that transfers, and it gets to the point where now you draw a couple extra percentile from somewhere. He was fighting for something more than just him in this one. He's fighting for the family name. He's fighting for the legacy of the Eubanks. And it's funny because, as much as we would be like, oh, it was the babyface moment to see Senior there, like Senior almost became the he kind of felt a bit like a villain in this story, because of the amount he's like, oh, I will not be in his corner. It's a disgrace. He's a disgrace. This whole event is a circus. I won't be a part of it, etc., etc. Yet, when you have the other side, there's such a tight knit family, and you've got, Nigel, who in this entire situation has never put a foot wrong, has never swayed from his son's side, has always been there, always been the protector. Yet they were the bad guys. So it's just funny how how we view good and bad, babyface and heel, in that sense of, because there's been several times, even Chris used to say himself, in the terms that I'm the bad guy, yet I never cut corners and I never cheat and blah blah blah. But something inherently about him made him the bad guy. This time, when there are all the faults and there are all of the problems within the family and the drama, now all of a sudden that's what makes you a babyface. So I guess it just shows how much we truly love dysfunction as people. But with all of that being said, look, that main event, the ring walks, the drawing for the old school music on both of them, but then still keeping their original brands as well. Connor obviously went in the opposite way that Chris did, in the sense that he actually walked to the ring with his dad's music, and he just used his music to join the entrance, whereas Chris did it the other way around. But yeah, the whole thing, it just gave it an extra layer. And the fight itself, I literally just kind of watched it back, not even to score it or analyze it, just to sort of get a bit of the feel of it. And it was it was a good fight, but there's a few things that I picked up from it, and I don't know if you want to go before I kind of go into some of the things that I did see, and I mentioned some of these on the weekend wrap. But yeah, I'll let you talk about the fight first, and then I'll sort of address it afterwards.
Okay, yeah, I haven't managed to watch the weekend wrap because I've been on these late shifts, so I've managed to catch up with a lot of stuff. But I will definitely tune in after some. And also, guys in the chat, make sure you subscribe and tune in to Base the Kid at the Hardcore Casual for his weekend wrap, because he does an excellent job at doing that post fight analysis and post show analysis for the week. The ring entrances were great. Eubank Senior played his role. I saw some people talking about, Eubank Senior, he's making it all for himself. Why don't he just leave his son alone? He has to be all up in it. Well, he was away from it for the whole sort of build up. People collared him when he was trying to do a sort of charity walk with Michael Watson the other day. He obviously had to, do a little spin and spell whatever and get people sent off of him. And on the night, Eubank Junior wanted him there. He said he wanted him. So everything that Senior did in that entrance, Junior wanted it. He had the smirk. Senior, went on the stage with him, just like Nigel went on the stage with Connor. So let's not act like it was one way, guys. Yeah. Senior, he stood by him at times. Other times he let Junior walk off and have his moment. Part of the camera magical thing, Senior does all that. So when it does play back in 5-10 years, it's all part of the ambiance of the night. So people need to get off of Senior's back, and it just goes to show you that, you know, father sons need their fathers. Yeah, at the end of the day, and why I say this is Senior said a lot of things about the build up, things that's been handled with both fighters, especially with Junior. If you're looking about him getting the fines, missing the weight, I heard in the build up the team Eubank was saying, "Oh, we got told a certain time and we got lied to of a certain time." Eubank Senior would have not had got lied to, or he would have told Junior, make sure you get there an hour early. Make sure you get there this time. Got there that time. And even them trying to pull certain ruses over Junior, which they managed to do, wouldn't have happened on Senior's watch. This is what he's saying. These guys, they always look after their tribe first. So yeah, the people in his team, they do like Junior, but they've got their sole best interest at heart first for them and their families. Whereas Senior is always, yeah, it might not be always the best way or best method, but he's always got the best interest of his son at heart and doesn't want anything from him. He's not looking at wage, he's not looking at paycheck out his son. Yeah, he might like want a bit of camera time, but he created the camera time for these guys to have their camera time today. But as far as the fight goes, um, yeah, Junior, I was thinking, I was worried that Junior was drained and that I thought that he'd got the silk pajamas syndrome. I thought he'd made his money, didn't wasn't motivated, because the training videos I saw, he was on the beach, David A style with Shane McGuigan, doing little light pads with Jonathan Banks. Saw Conor Ben going in, going ham. You know, he looked very ferocious. Eubank Jr. looked very laxy daisy in his build up, in his training videos. So I thought, yeah, Conor, he's going to be too hungry. Plus, Conor Ben has lost a lot of money when he said he's gone near bankrupt. So I thought he'd have the more hunger, more motivation because he needs to get the money back. So I thought he could pull it off. But I also said that for Junior to win, he would need to, when Conor Ben comes with the early onslaught, he would have to stand his ground like Senior did against Nigel. Stand your ground, as Senior does that thing where he's always puts himself side on and then punches with Nigel, but hits him to the body here and there. Get that grunt, because when you open yourself up, similar to what Aaron McKenna did to Liam Smith in their fight, caught him as he winged one out. And that's how you sort of slow a man down, get control of him. And then when you quieten the fight down, that's when you could try and go for a stoppage. Hence, when you look at that ninth round with Nigel Benn and Chris Senior, it was the crowd was silent, it was very quiet, they were just posturing around, and also out of nowhere, boom, boom, 1-2. Nigel started flailing, and then yeah, the finish happened. And a bit of that did happen. uh, Junior did sort of stand his ground, wasn't jumping back with his hands up, fleeing as he did against Liam Smith, which was getting caught on the end of shots. Similar to what, unfortunately, Craig was doing in the Willie Hutchins fight, pulling out, you know, getting caught on the end of shots, because you don't want a man springing in, launching, and you're getting caught on the end of shots because that's where you generate the most power. Junior managed to control Conor with the jab a lot. Um, and yeah, it was an excellent fight. People talking about, oh, Conor hurt Junior loads of times in there. No, he only rocked Junior once really in the third round with the left hook. Apart from that, Junior took the shots quite well. Yeah, some of them had half of effect, but he wasn't wobbling on shaky legs. Apart from really that third round, Conor Ben showed a very good chin. His legs started to look heavy towards the end of the fight. Junior started catching him. Connor's chin started going up in the air, but they both showed, you know, the Warriors code, and they done their fathers proud. Have they stepped out of their father's shadow? No, they never will, because their father's shadow is what makes them. But they've definitely earned their name, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, look. So first things first. Yes, it was a true. It was a great fight to watch. It's arguably fight of the year, not just for what happened in the ring, but because of everything else that went in and around it. So you have to kind of factor that, because emotions heightened, and you know the emotion and the investment inside the ring is ultimately what brings the entertainment. Um, However, there are a few things that there's some caveats that I want to put to certain scenarios here. And you guys know me, I'm always quite happy to, you know, to be the quote unquote contrarian or be the one that's a bit controversial. But here's two ways I look at it. Number one, you had Chris Eubank Jr. somehow with every single disadvantage that you could have for a supposed A side. Um, he didn't have the size of the ring that he requested. He had the rehydration clause. He had the mad weight stipulation penalties if he didn't make those weights. The supposed problems with the times to weigh in, if that's in fact true. The horsehair gloves that they didn't want, but they didn't turn up to the glove meeting. All of these things, it seems like the only thing that he was ever able to control in this entire scenario was the press conferences. So for as an A side, that seemed to be like a massive major failing on his team's part. Yet with all of those things in the background, the rehydration, him possibly killing himself to make this 160, his dad constantly saying he is a 168 fighter, he should not be fighting at 160. And Connor, who obviously campaigned the majority of his career down at 147, had his last couple at 154, 156, etc. But he's the naturally smaller guy, so the guy that doesn't have to cut the same amount of weight. He can actually replenish and refuel after every session comfortably. And Connor had all of these advantages against Chris, yet he wasn't able to win this fight. Ultimately, all the advantages he got allowed him to just merely see the final bell. That's the kind of the way you look at it. But then on the other hand, you say, well, with Chris, how much credit are we really gonna give him? Because as Connor said multiple times in the build up, and as other people have said, you had all these other options to fight people your own size, and you chose the guy that's coming up from 147, 154, 156, whatever. You chose the smaller guy. The same way you chose the smaller guy with Liam Smith. Camille Seremeta isn't technically a smaller guy, but he was a guy obviously inactive for God. He was basically semi-retired. He was about to retire. Liam Williams on pretty much towards the back end of his career. It just seems like you've decided to go for the low hanging fruit, and yet low hanging fruit took you life and death. So that is part of a narrative that ultimately, yes, you had all these elements against you, but these are things that we have to kind of look at. So there's not, while I give praise to both guys for how they handled things, it's almost I have to temper my praise because there's a lot of asterisks and caveats that happened and caused the entire event to begin in the first place. Not to mention, when we're saying, oh, Connor's got a chin, maybe he does, but I don't think that we can truly say whether he does have a chin or not, because I saw every single punch that Chris Eubank was throwing, he was having to force his arm out. He wasn't rotating the shoulder. He wasn't turning the knuckles into the shot. He basically looked like it was killing him every time to throw a shot. Um, If that sweeping left hook, the little like lead left hook that he was doing when he was pushing out the jab, his legs could barely move. So I don't know how much mustard he was actually getting behind those shots. So while yes, Connor still had to take them, he still had to ride them and do well. Maybe he wasn't taking full-blooded, fully flush shots. So I still don't know exactly what level of chin he does have. And then on the other side, what I will say is Chris to me won the fight quite clearly. I had it 115, 113. It was a very competitive, close fight, as it was, built to be. But I do think that the only person that actually hurt the other one in the fight was Connor. So maybe he does hit quite hard. Now he's maybe got adjusted to the 10-ounce gloves as opposed to the 8 ounces that you wear when you're 147. But how much of his power up at that weight is quote unquote genuine, when again, Chris also had all of these ailments leaning into the fight. So there's so many caveats, which is ultimately what ended up making this fight like a 50-50 or like as competitive as it was. It would have been interesting if it was set at the weight of 160 pounds and there was no rehydration or anything like that. People talking about a rematch. the thing is, as much as I would like to see a rematch, I think it would be fun, but I don't really see a scenario where it happens sensibly, because if Chris Eubank Jr. is the A side now, which he was supposedly before, they say all the terms are agreed, but I would be looking at it like, well, hold on, you guys see what it takes for me to make 160. I can't really do it anymore. I'm definitely not adhering to any rehydration clause, but I won, so I should get some more terms in my favor. So if I was him, I'd be the same way. I was like, well, the first time we had this fight, it was at 157. No, now we're gonna do it at 163. Yeah, you wanted £3 the last time. Okay, well, I want £3 this time. And if you want to take the fight, we do it there. Whether you still say, you know what, 163, and I'll still take the £10 rehydration clause just for you, or something like that, possibly. Um, but outside of that, I don't really see much options. He can't make the 160 safely for any of the elite guys. 168, he is a bit undersized for the majority of those guys, except maybe Canelo. But obviously, the skill gap is very different there. Truth be told, if I was him, as my last master stroke, as my last troll, as my last villain arc, I would literally say, you know what? I achieved what I needed to. I defended the family name. I've got nothing else to prove. See you later. And do it to the point where the Bens never get the opportunity to finally get that lick back against the Eubanks, and you constantly always just have them right in front, and they stay there, and there's nothing you can do, because ultimately the problem between the two is that Chris Senior had a son same size as him. Nigel Benn unfortunately had Connor, who was not. Because a lot of the time when they was early, the lead up was, such a shame that they're is so far apart in size and weight, because it would be great to see the sons. So Nigel doesn't necessarily, I guess, have the right heir to take on the task. Usually, children end up being bigger than their parents, but on this one occasion, I guess it wasn't the case. Look, it was a valiant effort from both of them. Like I said, there was great heart, passion, determination shown by both of them. I thought the fight was amazing, but I'm giving these caveats because I don't think we can just do nothing but wax lyrical. We have to put into context what we saw, because there was a lot of stuff in the background which probably, granted that situation for us to have. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I do think, yeah, Chris. I think Chris was probably hurt more than Connor in the fight, but just his smart moves of punching when he needed to, tying up when he needed to, which is what I said he needed to do. Take it a bit later, and then when Connor is got all of his extra weight on him, being explosive, he clearly is gonna tire. All right, let's see what happens on the second half and the back end of the fight, and ultimately he ended up doing just that. So what's your I mean, if you've got any retorts to that, feel free. Otherwise, obviously we can talk about what's next.
Yeah, no retorts. You make some very good points there when you're talking about the power of the shots. Yeah, with Chris Eubank Jr., I could see the shots did look a lot slower. Even the hooks, he wasn't really getting as much torque and purchase as he normally does, turning the shots over. He's definitely lost a step. But what I do like about Junior is when the fight was close, coming towards the last few rounds, he resorted to type, and the type is he just goes in and starts having the rockers, because when it comes to that trade off rockers or throwing punches in bunches, you ain't gonna outfight Chris Junior, and that's when even though Connor is explosive, he can't throw combinations as fast as Junior. He can throw one shot a lot faster than Junior. He can throw a jab faster, can throw a right hand faster, definitely. But when it comes to actually a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 6, 7, 8 punch combination, Junior is going to hit him a lot more times, because Connor has to really, load up. So that takes a lot of time to let the shotgun shells off. And that's where Junior decided to think, do you know what? My legs are tired here. We're both tired, but I'm going to use that work rate. And he literally started doing that machine thing, mechanism. You know that machine I'm talking about, the
Yeah.
uppercut machine. He started using that method, and that's what I feel got him over the line there.
Okay, no, I would concur with that. Um, it will be interesting to know, and I only say this from that perspective of, remember we were talking about sort of the A side, B side thing, and where Chris was saying in the press conferences, you asked for the 18-foot ring and you won't even get that. You shall get nothing because you don't deserve it. It will be interesting to know if they both got paid the same for the fight. And I know we have there's pocket watch allegations on this channel on several times, but it's only for the fact of, if they were paid the same in this fight, and then Junior had to pay the penalty because he came in, the point 0.5 of an ounce over the 160, then all of a sudden, again, that A side status, the B side made more than you in the fight. And that might be the one win that the Bens get over the Eubanks in this whole scenario.
Yeah, well, the from what I've been told, that Eubank got 10, Connor got 8. So then, if you take 500 grand off, then Connor got 7.5, then Junior 9.5. So Junior got more money, and but then the only thing I know Junior did manage to swap over, because I know about the gloves and stuff, is he was not allowed to use them MX1s, which is the horsehair gloves, because in the fight he ended up having to use the Everlast Elites, which are not
Okay.
horsehead. So they ended up did have to change the gloves, and that's probably what because I saw um, Frank Smith about to get into a fight with
Mazin Majid.
yeah. So obviously then they started talking about the Amir Khan Kell Brook situation with the gloves, where they made them have to wear the same gloves in the end. But obviously Connor's definitely not going to be trying to wear no winning gloves, so they conceded on the MXs and Everlast. As I imagine Connor's probably sponsored by Everlast, so he probably needs to
Yes.
wear an Everlast brand of some sort.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because I didn't even look into all of that, but I guess it's clear that they really weren't. That probably was Connor's best. That third round, I guess, if he was wearing them MX ones, I think Chris may have ended up on the canvas, quite frankly, because them horsehair gloves ain't no joke.
Mm.
Okay, well, look. So, with that being said, we got the fathers reunited with the sons. Hence the title of the show, Family Matters. It's good that they're all back together. And it's what's funny though about this whole situation yesterday, and I'm not going to say I predicted it. I didn't. I'm not putting out in any videos that, I said that Senior's going to be there. Initially, I truly thought he didn't, and I saw he's a disgrace. I'll never be in his corner, all that stuff. But if you remember, I put a couple of videos into our group chats from when he was doing the things with Sun Sport, and he was talking about his sort of basically his need to be loved by his brothers, and ultimately I guess his dad as well, and that's why he took up the boxing and then all of that stuff. So when I was watching those videos, something said to me, can you really say all of this and then not be there for your son in the moment that he probably needs you the most? It just felt like I'm sure, you've got to be there somehow. Like you've got to put your pride to the side in some way and sort that. But when we're kind of looking at it, I guess ultimately it was just one of those thoughts in the back of the mind. You got it there and then you kind of push it to the side. But ultimately, I guess it was true. And the way, he decided to, he came out and exited the car, and he just stopped and did the little pose. Then he slowly got out, and then you just see Junior just coming around the side like it's Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. It was a great, it was big. Like, I think that the reaction, I think, from everyone seeing that was truly not just like a gasp moment or awe-inspiring moment, but genuinely that of a, this is good to see. Like, fathers and sons, especially in, a lot of people talk about certain communities, you don't always get them. So when you actually have a father and a son that can be in each other's life and want to be, it's a great thing.
Mhm.
Especially for those people who want those kind of relationships and aren't able to for whatever reason, whether it's because their father's no longer here, because their father's is away and can't be with them, kind of thing. Whatever it is, like, you always, I don't think there's any, they always talk about, you get sort of like your mama's boys, but then you get like daddy's girls. But I truly think there's a certain bond between fathers and sons that is just unreplicatable amongst any other demographic. That's just my opinion. Obviously, other people may feel differently. But yeah, I truly marked out for that moment, and I'm happy that it happened. And whatever beef they had, I'm sure it's obviously not finished, and they've still got a lot of demons to sort of exercise within their relationship, and there's a lot of maybe hard talks that need to happen. But just knowing that when you need me the most, I am there is something that I hold truly deeply, and that was something that was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. And as you said, fathers and sons, there's a certain connection that it can't be matched, because even when, as you said, when you're talking about certain demographics and communities, let's talk the African and Caribbean community. Let's just
Well,
be
more the Caribbean. I think the African one doesn't have the same stigma for the most part.
doesn't have the same stigma, but it's I think it's just as prevalent, because a lot of the fathers, when it came to parents' evening, they wasn't there, and you'd ask them, "Where's your dad?" and they say, "I'm away on business," because they'd have multiple different families and stuff like that. Plus, there was obviously the farming epidemic that was going on as well. So a lot of the African fathers wasn't around because they had multiple families, but the stigma did usually get put onto the Caribbean fathers. Um, but as I said, it was great to see, because even when you look at a lot of young men from areas around urban areas, as they call it, who do get themselves in trouble, end up in in law school, inside the prison systems. You hear a lot of even artists talking about, my daddy wasn't there, so I had to hit the streets and blah de blah. It's usually stems from the dad. A lot of sons are really daddy's boys, but they end up being mummy's boys because dad wasn't there. And women are very nurturing, but sometimes it doesn't help when they over nurture the boys, because then they become emotional and have erratic outbursts and behaviors, which can lead to devastating consequences. Whereas a father can be more tame, structured. Hence, Senior always talks about, I didn't really like the egg thing. We're meant to be standard bearers and noble and stuff like that. But he does have to understand Junior is not like him. Junior, yes, he was in Brighton, but we've seen he was hitting the streets of Brighton and getting into certain altercations and mischief. So he's not exactly as regal as Senior. Yes, he's got a lot of the teachings and a lot of the wisdom, but he's not exactly like Senior. So there's certain things Senior does have to let Junior be himself on. But it was great to see. I saw a lot of women talking about, as I said before, oh, Senior's hogging the limelight, let his son be. No, I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of mothers, I'm not trying to get onto the mums, but I think a lot of them don't like to see bonds like that with fathers and sons too much. They rather see, as you said, people like the effery, the fuckery and the drama and all that kind of stuff, rather than a positive nuclear style family, or an attempt of one in the public eye, especially when it comes to those from the Caribbean, the Afro Caribbean diaspora. They like to see that single mum syndrome, or the son, black son without his father. But as you saw, I saw even Nathaniel Wilson Banks there. He had his son there. He looked about 9 years old, and I saw on his story that Eubanks Senior was talking to his grandson. So that was a good moment there to see that as well. I'm sure Senior will see his other grandson in Sebastian's son, who Junior is fathering now. You see these very touching moments, and you can see he does a lot of what he's doing now to try and help his nephew. So yeah, it's a great thing to see, and I love it.
Okay, right. Well, that's pretty much enough with regards to that. I guess, we'll wait and see what both do. I've given sort of my opinion on what I'd like to see in terms of that. I will say, if I, I truly don't know how well Danny can. I mean, Connor, sorry, can make 147 again. It's been a long time since he's done it, but he's adamant that he can. So if that's the case, cool. I would like to see him maybe go down there and get some of the low hanging fruit. Guys like Boots, stay away from. Brian Norman Jr., I would say still stay away from. You might be able to catch him early, but outside of that, I think that's a bit of a nightmare task. Barrios, I think, is definitely beatable, but if you can make that weight and make it well, the best thing is to kind of just not so much hide out down there, maybe nurse one belt, wait for the rest of the those 147 guys to leave, like Boots and maybe Norman, and then wait for all the new crop of 140s to come up. and then sort of have that dynamic, or a situation that I said that I felt would might be an idea similar to Margarito weight and Canelo weight. Maybe Connor employs Connor weight and maybe starts fighting and competing at maybe 151 and just having fun style fights there. Maybe fighting guys that are coming up from 140, 147 that just don't want to make weight. Trying to employ some big fights that way, and just use that as the rest of his career based on sort of what he's done now. That's kind of a scenario that I've put out there. But look, whatever he does and whatever Chris does, I think that after what they done last night, both deserve to be able to have that pick. Now, with that being said, let's move to the undercard because I don't really want to stick around too long talking about this. One thing I will say, it was a good undercard on paper. The fights were all, I guess, evenly matched. To a degree, I think some of the fights were too evenly matched because the one bad thing about this entire card, there was no knockouts. Every fight went 12 rounds. And there weren't that many that were actually um, like all excellent, brilliant. Or there was all like none of them were terrible fights, but they weren't. None of them were like brilliant to maybe to really sort of wet the whistle for the main event. So I just want to go quick. I'm going to give sort of my overview of how I saw those fights. Then you can go yours. Then we might go a little bit deeper into each one. So in terms of my level of intrigue initially, this is how it started. So it was Brandon Glant and Chris Billam-Smith. I expected that fight to be pure carnage. My next one was Chef Clark and Vidal Riley. Again, I thought that stylistically that would be a situation where like he's gonna really be up against it. Chef's gonna he's gonna be really pressuring, and Riley's gonna have to work hard for his meal if he's to get it. Then it was the trilogy that no one asked for, but ultimately it's a trilogy. They are one and one. The intrigue is there. Who can finally sort of get the rite of passage of that moment? And then my last one was Liam Smith and Aaron McKenna. At the end of the night, minus the main event, my level of interest or my fights, the way I saw them, then actually became Liam Smith and Aaron McKenna for that beautiful, masterful performance by Aaron McKenna. It's one of the best displays I've seen from I guess, an upcomer, like in I think that I've ever seen personally. And the fact that some judge managed to find a way to give Liam Smith a couple of rounds in there, I don't understand how. He got out hustled on the outside, he got out fought on the inside, he got lit up every single round, got dropped. It was just he's clearly at the end of his tether at this point in time. Like it's time for him to probably hang him up and call it a day now. But McKenna was just there. That was beautiful. That was what became my best one. I guess then second, I would say is maybe I would then say is Yard and Arthur free because it was sort of much better than the second fight, definitely much better than the first, but and it was it had the back and forth. Arthur was winning the fight at points, but then decided to do Lyndon Arthur things and then just sit on the ropes, soak up pressure, maybe hoping that he can throw a couple counter shots, and ultimately that became the reason how he ended up losing. Because at one point, I think after 8 rounds, I had him like 5-3 up, or yeah, like so. The fact that he kind of threw it away was weird. Then obviously Chev and Vidal was the next one, and then Glanton and Billam Smith ended up kind of being the worst one purely. And the thing is, Billam Smith is actually very very intelligent. I just want to say like he's not the greatest in terms of his technique and like his boxing skills, but in terms of his IQ and the way that he does certain things in the ring, it's underrated. Or Shane McGuigan gives brilliant instructions. It's one or the other, or maybe it's a little combination of both. Because all he was really doing, he was popping a jab to get to the inside, or throwing or maybe trying to throw a lead uppercut and then literally just jumping straight into the clinch and then tying up the arm of Glanton on the outside of the referee so that the referee can't see that he's holding the arm, then unwrapping the arm or then wrapping it back up again or putting his head on Glanton's shoulder, then lifting it up, putting it on top of his head. So when Glanton's trying to get underneath, it looks like, oh, referee, look, he's trying to nut me, he's trying to headbutt me. It was just so much to the point. Obviously, the ref then has to break them. He's then given a lot of warnings and talkings to Brandon Glanton. Glanton can't get into any kind of rhythm, and Bilham Smith is literally just nicking rounds by doing a hit and hold on, and not getting admonished by the referee. I don't think he got told off about it once until maybe like the eighth or the ninth round. So it was very, very smart on his part. It didn't make for a great fight. The fight should have been a lot better than it was, but maybe the quote unquote demons of that Zerdo Ramirez fight are in his head, because he's like, okay, I don't want to get into these exchanges no more. I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to stop you from hitting me at all costs. And that ultimately be what it is. And I think actually, if you look again, outside of everything that Brandon Glanton said in the lead ups, and some of the unsavory stuff that some people don't like, he definitely hurt Bilham Smith a lot more than Bilham Smith hurt him. And I think Bilham, if it wasn't for that experience of being able to try to nullify, stop the work, stop the onslaught, stop that forward momentum, it could have ended up a whole different way, because I don't think the two of them fighting toe to toe would have been advantageous for him. He even managed to get on his bike at times. He was doing some lateral movement, hop skipping and jumping away, switching angles. I'm like, this ain't the Chris that I've seen. Like, it's crazy when someone, I'm not gonna say someone you're scared of, but someone literally makes you fight out of character and do things that are outside of either your comfort zone, your wheelhouse, or that have just been in deep down in the toolbox. But this time, you have to bring it out, because without it, it's problems. But look, comprehensive win by him. Congratulations. The only fight I predicted correctly, I including method, was Yard and Arthur. Um, so I'm 1-4 last night. I had a horrible showing in how I saw things going. Funnily enough, I picked Vidal Riley to win. Then I changed my prediction. I was like, no, I sent a message to my predictions league. Said, no, I want to change that to Chevron split decision. I just thought his work rate would be there. And then we see Virgil Hunter, and the work rate wasn't there. I've got things to say, but I'm gonna let you go, and then I'll jump back in.
Yeah. As far as the undercard, I picked Aaron McKenna to score the upset. I know a lot of people are probably wondering how and why. It's because I actually got the inside scoop for someone who was in the camp of Liam Smith, talking about how he was looking in training, in sparring against certain people, and I was told that he was looking old. He was looking, like he's done. And I was like, really? And it was like, yeah, he was getting, yeah. So I was like, okay. So they're like, yeah, they think Aaron McKenna's going to stop him. I was like, oh, but I thought Liam, he knows his way around. But I just thought, yeah, okay, okay, Liam's shot then or done. So yeah, I did get that one right. I picked Chev to win, Chev Clark. I thought he'd be too experienced, and Vidal hadn't been in any situations like Chev, who's been to America and this place and that place. So I got that one wrong. Um, the Yard Arthur, I did predict that it would be points for Yard. The reason why is because I'd never seen Lyndon Arthur in such shape. I saw a picture of him during fight week. I was like, wow, this is the best shape I've seen him in his life. So he looked very motivated, very up for it. I imagine the money and the motivation and probably future endeavours was an incentive. And obviously his uncle saying, listen, man, it's all on you now. Zelfa's at the gym now, so I can to really focus on you. So you got to take this seriously. This is your last run. You're getting on in age now, so we got to do this. And Lyndon in parts, yeah, his jab was looking good. He's got the best jab in boxing, at least a top three. And then also, but then as you said, he started doing this rope-a-dope nonsense, and then he let Yard, who's not really known for having a good engine, just start outworking him. But I did notice that Anthony Yard has employed now for the first time a strength and conditioning coach, because I see that Ruben Breda in his corner.
Ruben Tavares.
Yeah, which he's never had. So this is the first time he's used strength and conditioning. So that's probably helped his engine. But obviously the fight wasn't at a mad, frantic pace. So Yard was able to outwork him. But what was concerning though is that I did see Yard get hit with a lot of uppercuts and left hooks flush. And I'm thinking, boy, if you're in there with Callum Smith, and you're getting caught with left hooks like that, it is going to be very, very, very devastating. So that was very concerning to see how many left hooks he got caught with by Lyndon Arthur to the head. And Lyndon Arthur's not even a left hooker like that. He's a man who normally throws a jab and a straight right. He's got a decent uppercut as well. But you're getting caught with uppercut left hooks, especially on the inside. I'm thinking, whoa, especially with your back on the ropes. You know, Callum Smith, you back him up on the rope, and it's a catch counter. I'm like, whoa, that doesn't look really good for future endeavors if you're looking to get in there with guys like even Boatsi or Callum Smith. But he got another points victory. But once again, that's 2 points victories in a row. Is the knockout power there? Some people are saying is Yard on the decline. How much has the Beterbiev fight took out of him? There's a lot of questions because this knockout streak's not really happening these days, and he's not looking like he's not looking like he didn't look like he really hurt Lyndon in there. Later on, there was a little body shot, but Lyndon, but apart from that, it didn't ever look like he was ever going to take Lyndon out. Aaron McKenna, as you said, boxed when he wanted on the outside. On the inside, he was able to outwork and out hustle and out fight Liam Smith. Even dropped Liam Smith in the 12th round with a body shot as he opened wide. That was the only knockdown of the whole card. Vidal Riley, Chev Clark. Chev Clark, to me, won the first round. Then I don't know what was happening. They were both very far out of range. And if you're both too far out of range, then that's really going to suit the guy who is the taller, longer guy because he's going to land a couple more shots than you. And he wasn't working. I think it wasn't very smart to employ a new team so close to the fight. He was still trying to lie and say that he was with Sam Mullins days before the fight to certain journalists, but got found out because I saw the short, stubby Latino guy. So I was like, but I broke the news anyway that he was with a new team, but I didn't know who he was with until actual fight week. To be fair, but I knew he had left Churchill's. So that I don't think that was very smart to leave so late in the game. Vidal Riley, great tactics, proved he's not some YouTube boxer. It's great he didn't go down the misfit scene and he's, getting real accolades and he can push on. And he was in his home turf, Tottenham. So Tottenham got another win there against Arsenal. So, hey, I know they was happy about that. Brandon Glant and Chris Billam-Smith. Chris Billam-Smith, what it is, Chris Billam-Smith is used to fighting in the red zone so often he's become comfortable in it because even when he's fighting guys who are not really meant to be on his level, like Masterneck and that guy with the XOH, whatever his name is, I can't even pronounce that name.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm talking about. But because he has these mad stakeouts so many times, and it looks like he's tired and he's like really about like in a bit of bother, that becomes normal to fighting like that for him. So when a man like Brandon Glanton sticking on him, he's just used to fighting in the red zone. And someone like Glanton, when it did start getting tough, Chris Billam-Smith was able to navigate and hit his shots. And yes, you said that he was pulling some moves you hadn't seen before, but even when I remember in the Richie Riakporhe fight, man started using a couple shoulder rolls and stuff like that against Richie Riakporhe. So he has got a couple of moves in him here and there when he likes to, but all in all, he is a man who technically likes to, have a tear up and be on the inside. But he has a couple of nifty moves here and there. I'm not sure if Shane showed him it. He must have, because Shane does use a few technical moves.
He was extremely negative, though, last night. Let's be real.
His back was on the ropes a lot, which is not normal for Chris.
You know what? The thing is, not even so much the back on the, because I can get that, but literally, like I said, it was smart, but it didn't make for a fun fight. Obviously, he's not. I guess to him, there's that balance between being an entertaining fighter and obviously being safe and being able to go home. Maybe some of the stuff that Glanton said bothered him. Like maybe it really did unnerve him when he's talking about, look, I'm sending you home with brain damage. Like make no mistake, all that stuff. Like as much as we all, maybe that seeps in. So you're like, oh really? Okay, cool. And then you've got two options. All right, I'm either gonna try to hurt you more than you can hurt me. Can I win that fight? I'm not sure, but then I'm giving you a chance that you don't deserve or that you can't have against me because I've got more experience. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna do very negative things. I'm I'm just gonna jab you, and then as soon as I get onto the inside, I'm gonna tie you up. You can't move. Then I'm gonna lie to the ref and say that you're headbutting me, but even though I'm putting my my chin on the top of your head. Sonny Edwards used to do it quite a lot. It's a very smart tactic because the ref's got to break it, and ultimately the person who is the shorter person who's now bobbing and weaving and dipping up, and all of a sudden now they're getting in trouble for something that's not even their fault. Like it
Yeah.
was a very very smart tactic. It just made for a very not boring, but a very uninteresting affair. And just it didn't deliver what I guess what we all thought and hoped it would. That all being said, Brandon Glanter's got us. He's got to take some blame for that. And I actually now can't wait to get him back on the channel because I did say to him, "Yo, you've been saying some shit. You said some shit, so you have to deliver what you're promising." And he told me, "I promise you, I'm gonna show you and I'm gonna show the world." You didn't show me. So now
Mm.
I need to hear why. Like so I'm gonna obviously put out the call to Napa to get him back on the channel. I'll try and do it on one of the casual streams so that people can watch it live and in the fresh with no editing. But we'll I guess we'll have to wait and see. Um Look, with that being said, Danny, I've got to shoot in a moment and I know that obviously you're at work doing this, so thank you for that. Any like final words and then we can kind of wrap this one up if there's any last things that you want to discuss.
Yeah, last little bits about the main event. I noticed that the ref was proper onto Eubank as well. Every little infringement he was doing, he was just proper onto Eubank's case. So he had to deal with that, which was very good. I noticed Brandon Glanton, he had a knee brace on, but hey,
Mm.
he went into a fight, so you can't. I ain't giving you no real credence. So as you said,
So
he's
just before you cut the knee brace, thank you. Not just so that the injury, whatever, but the ring canvas. I have to mention that ring canvas was horrible all night. From how are people slipping mad crazy from the very first fight? I know sometimes things get wet and it gets a bit slippery throughout the night, but from the very first fight, you they had over 8 weeks to to obviously to promote this event. Why could you not have done a proper like sewn in job with all of your promos? Because we know who it's sponsored by. We know it's sponsored by SNK. We know Boxwise is probably a part of it. We know DAZN. We know Match. Like who's gonna be on the canvas. Like sew them into the canvas or screen or like actually screen print the graphics and logos into the bedding of the canvas so that it's safe for the participants. Every moment people are there slipping, and that can disrupt your construct, that can make full push you off balance and end up getting caught by a shot that you ain't supposed to be getting caught by because you slip at the last minute. You can maybe get touched with something, fall backwards like Senior did in the first fight with Ben, and get ruled a knockdown even though you truly believe the shot didn't actually connect or it didn't connect on a scoring part of the body. All of these kind of things. So that was my little rant. Like if the amount of money they've got, you would think they would have been able to afford better ring canvas. That's what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to probably see Glanton versus Clark next. And also, lastly, I know we wasn't on last week. Just want to touch on last week's show, which was you. You was there. Well done to Ben Whitaker. Great performance. Um, what you do need to do though, not cry next time, because if you're going to make memes out of people and viral moments, slapping them on the head and doing mad moves, and they've got to see these videos with their families and stuff for the rest of their lives, then if you're getting some stick, you unfortunately got to take it. Yes, we did see. I imagine if Johnny Nelson got racist inboxes, I can't imagine what Ben Whitaker got in his inbox. So that's disgusting and disgraceful. Big up Johnny Nelson as well, staying on code. Um, People were trying to get onto Ben Whitaker about spitting allegedly when he didn't spit on Grant Smith. The commentator team was just trying to, I don't know what they were doing. Dave Coldwell tried to throw Ben under the bus. Um, I don't know why Dave Coldwell was doing that, but well done to Johnny Nelson for telling it as it is. I know Dave Coldwell, if it was a man like Hobie Price or something like that, he would have probably been at the defense of Hopey Price or someone, but maybe I don't know. With Ben Whitaker, I know he's from Sheffield as well, like Liam Cameron, so maybe there was some bias there. But Dave, nah, not very nice that mate. But yeah, big up Johnny Nelson. And yeah, Ben Whitaker. They're talking about Should he fight Joshua Buatsi next? I think everyone needs to calm down. He's not ready for Joshua Buatsi next. I did see people saying maybe at Anthony Yarde next. I think really Ben Whitaker should go for someone like a Lewis Edmondson, um, or or even
The
that.
Edmondson fight's going to be extremely difficult because he's with Queensbury. I don't think Ben's wants to. I don't think Ben Shalom wants to try and get into negotiations that way again.
Yeah, but he got Edmondson on his last show. Well, that the show with
Yeah, but he wasn't with them then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh, all
They
right.
he they seem to the guys do well, and then Frank goes in, swoops in them, and takes the people with the belts. So
Yeah, I hear that. Well, so yeah, it's one of them ones. You might have to go a different route then. But yeah, that's all I wanted to touch on as well, just to clear that week up as well, because we didn't go on last week.
sure, yeah, no, look, big ups to Ben Whitaker, big ups to obviously his dad and the entire team. The thing is, talking about the crying thing. Actually, I don't have an issue with it. Look, everyone, look, I think this is the thing. Yeah, if people, and I can only speak from my perspective here. I'm not a man that cries. I like up to like my dad's funeral. I hadn't cried in probably nearly 20 years. Yeah, sometime, and on that day I wasn't planning. I didn't feel any real big sadness at the time. It was literally one thing happened. I saw one picture, and then boom! It was like this massive explosion. You can't, it's one of those things. Some people obviously can do it on cue. Ben to me doesn't look like one of those kind of people. I feel like it was just the emotion took him, and after everything and having to hold everything in for that period of time, losing friends and family that he thought were around, the level of celebrity that he's seeing constantly, and even the people when we talk about he's making memes out of the other people, that's fair, but though a lot of those people don't have huge social followings, so like they probably aren't getting forwarded those memes every single day 20 times a second, whereas someone like Ben, who obviously is in the limelight in the two biggest markets, I guess globally, in the UK and America, like it probably, the pressure is there. You see a lot more, you've got a lot more of a following, like you're subject to a lot more, and a lot more people want to throw that negativity at you because of the way that you are in the ring. So I can kind of see how all of that, you try and hold it and compose yourself, you try and compartmentalize, but then you have that big emotion dump. Eventually, after a while, it comes out. It just, I feel like it is what it is. So like with that, I don't have an issue with it. But what I will say is you can't, now that you've had that moment, which you've said, you've explained what happened there, you know that how people are and how they move. Now you can't let that affect you a second time, in that sense. Like you had that excuse that time because it was something you weren't prepared to deal with. It's not something you knew how to understand. You now don't get that second opportunity to give the same story. I don't want to say sub story because I don't think it is that, but you don't get a second opportunity to have that grace period, because now you should know what to expect. You're at that level now, and that's the level you're aiming to stay at. That's what comes with it. So now that you've got that, that's when you check your emotions, you emotionally, you know, compose yourself, and you grow into the man that you say that you are becoming, now being 27, soon I guess turning 28 or whatever. That's sort of my thoughts on it. I don't know if you want to retort to that quickly, but
Yeah, no. To be fair, you made a fair point. When I was saying about don't cry, obviously don't cry in public. You can cry at your home or whatever. But as you said, sometimes, because I've been in that situation where out of nowhere you feel this mad bubbling, and you're trying to, and it just comes out, and you think
yeah,
and everyone starts trying to hold you, and and it's like and now I'm feeling moist, and it's getting annoying. So it probably was one of them ones, because you can see he probably went out and he said, "Oh, we'll give you some time." He's like, "No, carry on." And it probably was all of that. He took himself away. He said he's from a small, a small town. He's at the level of notoriety, all this money coming his way. His dad works 2 jobs. His mum worked 2 jobs. He's from very humble beginnings, and life was moving too fast. And he admitted he got lost in the sauce. So he's had to, have a reality check, realize, yeah, I've got to make some changes. I've got to, get my head screwed back to when I was hungry as an amateur, take myself away in Ireland, some remote village where no one knows me, and knuckle down and all that kind of stuff. So I can understand why he, he did end up having an emotional thing. So, but yeah, as you said, it can come at any moment. You can't, unless you're one of them people who can really, just put on the waterworks whenever you feel like it. But I agree. I don't think he planned to do that. So I will take that one back. So yeah, I'll give him the grace on that. But big ups Ben, and onwards and upwards. I look forward, and big up to the dad as well.
Yeah, man, like shout out to Mr. Tony Wilson.
Yeah,
Tremendous individual. One of the better boxing dads. One that he's never in the scene like causing a fuss, but he's always by his son's side when he needs to be. So Tony, if you're watching, salute to you. With that being said, Danny, is there anything else to touch on? Because we need to wrap up.
no,
All right. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. It was the two of us today. I hope that maybe you found some comfort in some of the conversations. I hope you like the realness, the rawness, the straight talking. I also hope that if there were any things that you disagree with, please get in the comments of the videos, and let us be able to see your thoughts and feelings, respond. We have seen bits and pieces of the chat, but unfortunately, we're trying to sort of get through everything, and because there's only two of us, no one's really monitoring it like we usually do. Hopefully everyone should be back next week. Actually, you know what? Probably Maestro won't be back next week because he will be in Las Vegas at the Inoue and Cardenas fight after the Canelo one. So he probably won't be here, but hopefully it should be myself, Danny, and October. Maybe we'll even do it a little bit earlier, or we might have to change the date so that we can get all three of the fight nights in, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's a lot going on. But look, yeah, with that being said, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the Fight Talk Live YouTube channel, make sure that you go over there. The link for that channel is in the description of all the other videos. Make sure you go over there, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, Danny's channel, October's channel, Maestro's channel. Next week, or the week whenever we do this, will be the last time that we do it through all the platforms. So the show will only be through Fight Talk Live after that. So yeah, make sure you all subscribe there so you can lock in and get the unadulterated and unfiltered opinions. And I promise you guys, moving forward, all of the opinions will be unfiltered and unadulterated. There won't be any reservations. I won't allow it. If I'm gonna give up my Sunday nights, we're gonna talk the talk. All right, so that's what we're saying moving forward.
but
Yeah.
hopefully we can do it on Sunday, because from Monday the 5th I will be on annual leave.
Okay. Well, we'll work that one out. Then maybe we'll just give a new way the following week a little bit there. We'll work on it. But yeah, look, Danny, sign them out the way you know how.
And there you have it, guys. It's episode 23 of Fight Talk Live. It's Danny Glover. It's Base the Kid. And remember, guys, persistence beats resistance. You know where it is.